So last week, we reviewed the first 4 chapters of this third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where there was a discussion between Vidura and Uddhava. During that conversation, Uddhava described how during the very last days of Lord Krishna's manifest pastimes, he met with the Lord under a banyan tree at Prabhas Kshetra and received some very confidential instructions from the Lord before his disappearance. And the Lord told him that he should go to Badrika Ashram and deliver that information to the sages and the deity there. So Uddhava was actually on his way to Badrika Ashram when he came across Vidura on the banks of the Jamuna and spoke with him and explained to him how the Yadu dynasty had passed, how the Lord had finished his pastimes, and he was on his way to Badrika Ashram. Vidura asked him to stay and instruct him, but Uddhava also explained that at that same meeting with the Lord, Maitreya Rishi had come there, and he also received instructions from the Lord for Vidura. So Uddhava instructed him that Maitreya was now up in Hardwar, north of where they had met, and that Vidura should seek him out. So that's where we are, beginning with chapter 5 in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll head over to those texts now. This is June 2023, lessons 1 and 2, a continued review of the third canto. And Samapriya will do the same thing as we did last time with the charts. And also I've included some essential verses from each chapter. So that's how we'll do the review.
All right. Oops. Yes. Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to see you. This is a wonderful review of the third canto. Sham, are you able to participate? Can you speak? Would you like to read this, Sham?
Yes, I can speak.
Okay, good. So why don't you do it the way we did it last time? And we'll see how that works out.
Does that mean he should do these too?
Yeah, just do the whole chart.
The whole chart? Wow. Okay.
Well, you're just reading it. It's not, we could discuss it. Why is that too much? It's just brief, really.
Whatever
I know
you
you
like.
can.
Whatever you like. Yep. Okay. This is Canto 3, Chapter 5, Vidura's talk with Maitreya, summarized. Texts 1 to 9. Vidura's questions to Maitreya Rishi. 1. Vidura approached Maitreya Rishi at Hardwar. 2. How to live for real happiness. 3 to 4. Devotees travel to show compassion on fallen souls. 5 to 9. Describe about Purusha avatars, Virat Rupa, Leela avatars, living conditions on different planets and different living entities. Shall I go to the next, or will there be discussion? Okay.
No, just keep reading. I'll interrupt. We'll probably just do the reading.
Verses 10 through 16, Vidura's exclusive interest in Krishna Katha. 10. I am sated with hearing Mahabharat. 11 through 15. Describe only Krishna Katha that vanquishes miseries, increases detachment, creates auspiciousness, and is the essence of all topics. 16. Start with Purusha avatars.
I think we should go over Vidura's questions, because that's basically what those 2 sections were. Anything jump out at you, Sham Govinda?
It's funny how to live for real happiness and devotees travel to show compassion or preaching are 2 things hand in hand. I've just seen that connection. Maybe if you would, Dhruv, maybe you could say something more if there's a connection.
Yeah, I also like that. He was saying that everyone is searching for happiness, but the vast majority of people remain frustrated. So what is the real happiness? that a person can live. And I was just listening yesterday to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and he was explaining that if someone wants to know about something they're not sure about or don't know about, then they have to find a real authority. Now, everybody in the world will tell you how to be happy, but who's really going to give you some information that will satisfy that inquiry? I also found it interesting where he said, I'm satiated with hearing Mahabharata and topics of that. I think that Premananda Prabhu did a really good forum entry, kind of covered that. Although it was concise, it was excellent that the Mahabharata includes a lot of information about social divisions and duties according to human society. And Vidura, although he was very involved in politics when he was in Hastinapur, and certainly interested in everyone's welfare, that's why he's asking the questions, he wasn't interested in hearing about society and its different divisions and how they're set up. He wanted to hear more about the glories of the Lord, because that's the real essential way to happiness. Anyone else?
I also appreciated the exact same two things that both of you spoke about, that devotees with compassion, devotees are compassionate, so they travel to preach. And we see a perfect example of that with Srila Prabhupada. He took so much hardship just to deliver this message, and it breaks your heart to see that more people, although there are many people who are interested now. I mean, this preaching has been going on for almost 50 years. So the Western world is becoming aware of Krishna. But this is the goal of life. And you would think that everyone wants to achieve the goal of life. But most people are just interested in survival. So that's a little bit sad. But we shouldn't be discouraged. We shouldn't. We should continue on and cultivate our own Krishna consciousness and give it to as many people as we can, so that we can also become compassionate and fulfill the goal of life. Nanda, did you want to say something?
Not now.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't.
Okay. You want to go on, Shyam, reading?
Yes, we're still in chapter 5, texts 17 through 21. Maitreya Rishi honored Vidura and expressed gratitude. 17 through 21. You are the son of Vyasadeva. You are Yamaraj himself. The Lord left instructions with me for you. Text 22 through 38. Maitreya Rishi described the process of creation. 22 through 38. The Lord, who existed prior to the creation, glanced upon material nature, which underwent various transformations under the influence of time and gave rise to the 23 elements.
Before you go on, that was a pretty big jump. So my question to everyone is, why did Maitreya start by describing the creation? Why did his current flow into that direction?
Well, the canto is called Creative Impetus, isn't it?
No, the canto is called The Status Quo.
Oh, okay.
Creative Impetus was earlier. First canto, I believe, or second.
So what is so important about hearing about this creation? I mean, Vidura wanted to go right to the essence of everything. Why did Maitreya start where he was?
Because wasn't that one of the questions that Vidura asked Maitreya Rishi about it was in the beginning part of the chapter where it says, how did the Lord, or why did the Lord accept incarnations to create and maintain this world? So I believe
that's the essence right there, Premananda, that the Lord himself, he wants to hear about the Lord. He doesn't want to hear about the science of creation unless it's connected with the Lord and the glories of the Lord. Oftentimes people want to hear about the intimate pastimes of the Lord. But in order to understand the person, and better really understand his intimate relationships, one has to understand more about him, just like us. We've been reading this now for several years. We've gotten to know each other somewhat, but still our intimate understandings, our intimate feelings, our intimate relationships, because of this particular format, don't really manifest unless you meet a person and spend time with them and understand how they respond to so many things in life. Anyway, that was perfect. I think you got it, because Vidura had asked with that sense of direction.
Also, we see this many times. First, I'd like to thank Premananda for putting together all these amazing charts. What a mind! You really, thank you. That was kept it organized and gave us a real progression to go on. But I always come back to the point of we have to hear who we're dealing with. We have to hear who we're dealing with, put it in colloquial terms. Krishna is not an ordinary person. We have to understand his godhood, you know, and that's one of the very important reasons that we hear all about the magnificent things that he's doing. Nanda?
If you'll allow me, I heard on a different forum on Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj's Bhagavatam review on topical issues. He says one of the reasons why the creation is mentioned over and over again in Srimad Bhagavatam is because we understand the goal of the Bhagavatam is Krishna, the personality of Godhead, but because he's transcendental, he's beyond our ability to conceive of him. So we start with the creation, because then we can get a connection of how he's behind everything, which is just what you said, but in a different way, you know, that we see how the Lord is the source of everything. We hear about it over and over and over again. We also hear about how material creation is begun at a certain point and manifests and then annihilated and then resting and then begun again. And it helps us become detached from our normal attachments of trying to be happy in this material world. Just want to mention that.
Nice explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to go on? Finish reading the graph. Sean, why don't you continue with this?
Okay, so text 39 through 51. Elemental demigods offered prayers to the Lord. Text 39 through 43. Glorious shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Text 44 through 47. Qualified and unqualified candidates for the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. 48 through 51. Prayers for enlightenment and directions.
Do you remember that section when we read it, Sham?
Is this where anyone can come to the Lord? Those with material desires, those without material desires, those desiring liberation?
No, that was prior, and now in the second canto. What happened here was that although the elements were there and everything had been created, they still weren't working together. They weren't amalgamated. There was no central unit to help coordinate them. And even though these demigods were in charge of those elements, they couldn't do anything. So the essence of this, we can always, anywhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, wherever from whatever point we're at, we can always revert back to the Chatushloki, the 4 verses that the Lord spoke to Brahma at the beginning of creation. And he explains that before the creation, only I existed. This material cosmic manifestation, the whole thing, the Mahatattva, didn't even exist. So without his input, then as the material elements exist inside and outside of everything, similarly, I exist within everything. And whatever you see that doesn't have relationship to me is an illusion. So in the same way, these elements couldn't function without his guidance and management. So they're praying for help. even such powerful entities at the origin of creation. Yeah.
Is this the difference between the elements and the pradhan?
What is the difference between the elements and the pradhan?
Is it what we're speaking about, this like amalgamating force? I don't remember, or are they the same?
The
Somebody else?
elements are,
Go ahead.
oh, someone else? I probably am wrong about this, but the elements are after, they're created after the pradhan. The pradhan is the unmanifested, unmanifest manifestation. It's before things have gotten started and churned. So the elements are way beyond that. You know, when they come, everything starts to take form and starts to be created. I'm getting an approval from.
Now I recall. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right. So now we have some verses that help us to actually put the summaries into play. So why don't Tisha, would you like to read this, sweetie? Tisha, my darling.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone. This is 3:5, verse 5 through 9. Vidura requested, O great sage, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the independent, desireless Lord of the three worlds and the controller of all energies, how he accepts incarnations and creates the cosmic manifestation with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance. He lies down on his own heart spread in the form of the sky, and thus placing the whole creation in that space, he expands himself into many living entities, which are manifested as different species of life. He does not have to endeavor for his maintenance, because he is the master of all mystic powers and the proprietor of everything. Thus he is distinct from the living entities. You may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows, and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. The Supreme King of all kings has created different planets and places of habitation where living entities are situated in terms of the modes of nature and work. And he has created their different kings and rulers.
Okay. I had a couple of questions on this one. What does it mean, desireless? The Lord has no desires, yet everything is being done. What do you think that? What is that? The Lord has no desires. He's desireless. But we know he wants us to come back to him, so that must be a little bit of a desire. So how does that make sense?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I have an answer.
Okay. Nanda has an answer. Yay. Nandaji.
It's a question that comes up often, that or according to that statement, that he has no desires. So impersonalist thing, therefore, because he has no desires, nirguna, he has no form. But actually, Srila Prabhupada always points out, nirguna does not mean formless. It means that he has no material desires. He has no desire to enjoy, material pleasures, but he has he's the source of everything, of rasa. So he's the source of spiritual desires and spiritual mellows.
But yeah, isn't it also that it's like a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva? He even though he has some spiritual desire, he might, in the same way, not have that desire because he's self-contained. That is a very bewildering factor. You're right. He has only spiritual desires, but sometimes because of maybe my own relationship with Maya, I can't fully understand, because he has desires and at the same time he has no desire, even spiritually. Pati, can you
Yes.
switch?
We just read it in Jaiva Dharma. Very nice explanation. The Lord is inconceivable and unlimited. So he has both one side or one element of his psychology is that he's completely independent, swarat, and therefore he's completely self-satisfied, atmarama. He doesn't need anything. He's self-sufficient, he's self-satisfied, he's self-independent, and in this way he doesn't need anything. At the same time, inconceivable to our psychology, he also desires to engage in exchange with others, like we see during the rasa dance or with his intimate associates. He loves to play. He has desires. So he's simultaneously and inconceivably without desire on one hand, and like Nanda was saying, material desire, but on the other, he does have desires. If he didn't have desires, we wouldn't have desires. He's the source of all energy, and desire is an energy. So in this way, it describes very beautifully how he's complex and inconceivable to our consciousness, but at the same time, achintya bheda bheda tattva, it's understandable to some level.
You know, Prabhupada, I don't know if it was here or somewhere I was just reading, Prabhupada was saying that don't try to understand. You cannot understand. Maybe it was a Chaitanya Charitamrita. You don't, or someone sent me a quote.
There was a text you got in the phone, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a text. Don't try to understand this. You will never, that's foolish. Stop your foolishness, Prabhupada says. Stop it to try to understand God.
But at the same time, love Krishna. The Brijbasis, he was explaining their love for him isn't because they know he's God. It's because they love him as a person.
Yeah. And God, the person, must be lovable, supreme person. Okay, thank you. So let's have, we already read that. Okay, Nandaji, you want to continue for us?
Sure. Chapter 6, creation of the universal form. Text 1 to 10 talks about development of the gigantic universal form. And 1 to 10 is seeing the creation process suspended, the Lord sent his cohesive energy into the elements, and gradually the Virat Rupa manifested. Text 11 to 26 talk about manifestations of the different demigods from the universal form. And more detail is different demigods appeared when their respective locations were differentiated from the Virat Rupa.
So I have a question right there. So that means the demigods are part of the Virat Rupa? Is that what it is? The demigods themselves are part of the Virat Rupa? Are we part of the Virat Rupa?
Someone?
Something. Premananda is going to explain that if he'd like to, or whomever.
He doesn't know. Kati, it's up to you.
Yes, of course. The Virat Rupa includes everything from the top to the bottom, from east to west, and everything in between. That's the point. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The Lord is everywhere, in every atom, and even in between every atom. So the point is, and the demigods, as you were saying, according to their respective positions in that universal form, they attain an administrative post to manage over that part of the creation. So after the elements were created, they still weren't amalgamated. We read in, what was it, 1 to 10? Here, seeing that the creation process suspended, the Lord sent his cohesive energy into the elements, and gradually the Virat Rupa manifested. Let's go back again, just 1 second here. I want to point out, this is beautiful. This was so beautiful. He lies down on his own heart, spread in the form of the sky. This is the universal form. He lies down on his own heart, spread in the form of the sky, and thus placing the whole creation in that space, he expands himself into the many living entities, which are manifested as different species of life. So we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Anybody know that verse from Bhagavad Gita, that we're the eternal parts of the Lord? Mamaivam sa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, that they're eternal parts and parcels of the Lord. So in this way, everything is the Lord, and again, simultaneously different from him.
Okay, now my question is, he's a person, this universal form lying down on his heart, spread all over the universe. He is a person. So when we were trying to analyze which person, what we came up with, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, didn't we
Who's we?
discuss? You and me.
No, I never said it was Garbhadakshay Vishnu.
Well, he's a person.
Yes,
I-
Who is?
He's not, I thought the universal form of the Lord is, there's a verse that says it's an imaginary conception.
I know, but why is the reference to he so much? Why is the reference to
Because
his
every-
personalism?
Well, because everything comes from Krishna. How's that?
Then explain to me how Krishna said to Arjuna, I'll show you this form, but you need unique eyes. You need special eyes to see it. And then
Yeah,
he showed him something.
he
And he
showed
showed
him.
us something from coming from him. He stood there and then the form came. It was coming from him.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that true. But actually, in my Bhakti Shastri course, they said that the special eyes that Krishna gave to Arjuna appears like it was a step up for him to see this universal form, but actually it was a step down because he was seeing Krishna as Shama Sundar, which is the most dear form of the Lord. And so for someone on that level to see the universal form, he had to come, in my terminology, come down a level of understanding to see how Krishna is manifest. But, I don't have a very deep
I
understanding.
don't like the up and down thing. It's all up from where I'm standing.
That's true.
Well,
but
we can understand from that verse, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, it's non-dual. Vedanti tat vavidas tatvam yad jnanam advayam. Advayam means it's non-dual. The absolute truth is not separated in any way, but there are different perceptions according to the level of realization, Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. But the point still remains, whether it's up or down, that Arjuna saw something. It wasn't just an impersonal. Sometimes in the second canto, when we studied this, it's mentioned in the second canto, it's mentioned in the third canto, so much about the universal form mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Duryodhana saw something, Dhritarashtra saw something. There's some manifestation that is not an eternal form of the Lord because it's a Virat Rupa, but at the same time, the Lord can reveal something to that person who desires to see it, because that's what happened. We read about different people who have seen it. So I don't agree that it's just some impersonal concept or that it's not a form. It's a Virat Rupa. Otherwise, it would call it something else.
Form that includes
The
all
Brahman,
forms.
the Brahman feature doesn't have a form. So we never hear about the Brahman Rupa. That's not a terminology we use or have heard. Okay, don't want to get too caught up. Let's
Okay,
continue.
Nandaji, please continue. Thank you.
27 to 34, development of planets, living entities, and Varanas. 27 to 29 talk about 3 planetary systems and their residents. And 30 to 43 talk about the 4 Varanas. Text 35 to 40, Maitreya Muni felt unworthy to describe the Lord's unlimited glories. 35 says, no one can estimate the Virat Rupa potency.
Well, that answers it for us. Nobody can really do it.
No. Okay, it must be up.
Okay.
Nobody's wrong.
No, it's wrong.
36, in spite of my inability, I glorify Lord Hari. 37, highest perfection is simply glorifying and hearing the Lord's glories. 38 to 40 talks about demigods, Brahma, and even the Lord himself. Even the Lord himself cannot understand his glories. No wonder. There it is. He is beyond words, mind, and ego. Phew. That's good.
Okay. Yeah. So all problems solved now. That's why Prabhupada said you can't, don't be a fool. Don't try to understand. Just love Krishna.
And he also says, just keep reading. The answers will be there.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, just keep reading. That was wonderful. Thank you, Nandaji. All right, let's go on now with these verses. Gopapatni, my darling Gopapatni, are you there? Gopa.
Yes, Haribo, Haribo.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Please read.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh. I'm on my phone. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:6-8. Thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form, or the Vishvarupa body of the Lord, came into existence. As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay within him. The total energy of the Mahatattva in the form of the gigantic Virat Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities. The life of activity and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1 consciousness, 10 life airs, and 3 Adhyatmic, Adhibhotic, and Adhidaivic, respectively. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation, which thus flourishes. Hare Krishna.
Wow. So this one, the gigantic Virat Rupa, read that.
Oh, wait a minute.
Can you see?
The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the waters of the universe, and all the living entities lay within him.
So that to me is very, it supports the purport that he is a person, and also in the last verse here. Oh, could you bring it back, Pati, to that? The last verse, the gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord, is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Super Soul. Shiradakshai Vishnu. So this Virat Rupa Hiranmaya is an expansion of Shiradakshai Vishnu. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities. That's Paramatma. And in him rests the aggregate creation, which thus flourishes. I think this is really, for me, this is an awakening. I never, also just like Nanda, I never thought of the universal form as actually being personal. Although when we were studying it in the second canto, we all were feeling that he was very personal. I remember that was a wonderful thing, thinking that he is a person. Okay, and what do you think about that, Gopa?
It's very, very deep.
It's very deep. It's the deepest.
I was wondering how long is it said he's for how many celestial, what is a celestial year? Said for what, 1,000 celestial, how long is a celestial year? Down here, the gigantic Bharat Purusha known as Hiranmaya lived for 1,000 celestial years. But how much is a celestial year?
Kati.
Not sure. It says in one place that what is it? 1 year on Earth is I forget.
No, I think 1 day, 6 months on Earth is 1 day of the demigods.
maybe.
Yes.
Demigods.
When we
Demigods
come up
aren't
to
even the highest.
calculation of time, we can
Yeah.
get into that. Basically, we should note what's going on is that in his description, Maitreya is explaining from the vast Mahatattva now into each universe, how each universe is breaking down into its different elements, its different demigods, its different planets, its different people. And that, it's like categories going kind of like a zooming in on the creation in its more and more fine details as we go along. After he described these things, this is where we come up to Vidura's questions, further questions.
Okay. Vidura Leela, would you like to read this? Vidura G, help us out here, dear. Where are you? She was on. Here's Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi, you there?
Can you hear? Yes, I'm here.
Haribol, Vaishnavi, welcome.
Haribol,
Nice to hear
Vaishnavi.
your
Hi,
voice.
welcome. Haribol.
Thank you.
This is well, at least you came back for the review. That's good. Yeah, this is a little bit complicated. I'm going to let you read the next one because this we did this last week. So I'm going to have someone else read this, and then I'll call upon you to read something else. Is that all right?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Okay, darling.
Watch the format, Vaishnavi, where we read one of these, then this, then the boxes that relate to this one, then this box, then the ones that relate to that. And then you'll get an idea.
Okay.
So I don't see Madhurya Leela here anymore. She was here, but then I guess she signed out. So Premananda Ji, would you like to explain Premananda? This is your thing, Prabhu. So you please explain it to us.
I don't own it. I didn't create it. I just
You did not own it, but you put it together pretty good, though.
Thank you. Okay. So 3.7 further inquiries by Vidura. Text 1 through 7. Vidura inquires about Ishvara and the Jivas. Text 1 to 4. How can the Lord, who is spiritual and transcendental, be connected with material gunas? 5 through 6. How does the pure soul become engaged in nations and thus suffer? Text 8 through 14. Maitreya dispels all misconceptions about the Ishvara and Jivas and recommends bhakti. 8 through 9. The Lord is overcome by illusion and still unconditioned. This is illogical. 10 through 11. The distress of the living entity is due to misidentifications. 12 through 14. Solution, devotional service.
Okay, wait, stop right there for a second. I remember when we were studying this also presented a question. How can the Lord, this is 1 to 4, how can the Lord, who is spiritual and transcendental, be connected with the material gunas? Can you explain that? Of course, these are questions by Vidura.
Yeah, So I think that was the question by Vidura, that how is the Lord, who is spiritual and transcendental, be connected in material gunas? So I think this is basically a wrong understanding that you are associating the material modes of nature with the Supreme Lord. And that's what Maitreya later on says, that this is totally illogical. The Lord is transcendental. You cannot associate material gunas to the Lord. So I think this question is more from someone who is not very well conversant with the Supreme Lord and his transcendence. So that was one of the inquiries, that how can the Lord, who is unchangeable, perform actions that indicate change. So that's kind of stuff. It's basically a proper lack of understanding of the Supreme Lord. And that's why Maitreya dispels all such illogical questions later on.
Okay, I was thinking.
I think it's also connected with the question down here where it says that how does the pure soul become engaged in nescience and thus suffer? In other words, how do these spiritual entities even have anything to do with this material world?
Well, in the Lord's case, it's got to be Yoga Maya, but in the conditioned soul's case, it's Maha Maya. You can be becoming covered by the illusory energy of the Lord. But then there was the other one previously. He's an illusion. What was that? That confused me also. The Lord is covered by illusion, and yet he is not.
It said that this is completely illogical.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord is overcome by illusion and still unconditioned. This is illogical. That was the point.
Yeah.
These inquiries, often what we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, I've written about this in the kind of the lesson overviews when I send out the emails. Srimad Bhagavatam's a whole literary technique of having someone question and then having someone answer. So the questions in themselves make up the essence of what will be answered. So that's how the philosophy unfolds. And just because it's a question doesn't mean that the answer is already there within the question. Maitreya, as Premananda just said, Maitreya will work through his answer is the philosophy as to how those questions are answered.
Okay, let's go on. Thank you. Premananda, you want to continue with the...
Yes. Text 15 through 20. Vidura shares his heartfelt realizations with Maitreya. 15. My doubts are dispelled by your convincing answers. 16 and 17. I am convinced that the basis of the jiva's disturbance is the Lord's Maya. Yeah, as you just said, Mother Samapriya. And 18 through 20. This conviction will convert into realization by the rare service of devotees that gives rati, which means attachment, and vanquishes miseries.
That's the answer right there, right?
Right. Text 21 through 38, Vidura's further inquiries. So in this, there was a whole bunch of inquiries. I didn't have enough space on the chart to put all the questions, but these are some of the questions that I put on the chart. Some of the questions that Vidura asked are different. What are the different powers of the specific divisions? Please tell me all that Brahma has created, the Manus and the descendants of those Manus. What are the different planets, their situations and measurements? Please talk to me about categories of living beings and their generations, Gunavataras, Varnashram, Yoga, Yagya, Jnana, Sankhya, 4 Purusarthas, how to completely satisfy the Supreme Lord, and a whole bunch of other questions.
So that would really you have to ask, why do we have to know all of this? That's like everything in the whole world, everything in the whole creation. That's quite a confusing thing. I mean, why not know where we are? Why not know everything about that place where we are and the incredible way that the Lord creates and interacts and all the energies? It is mind-blowing, seriously.
There's also a confusing feature here that I just noticed as we were reading. Previously, Vidura said that I'm satiated, hearing about the divisions of society. You wrote in your forum, Premananda, about how he wanted to hear more about the glories of the Lord. In this verse, you just made a list which included Varnashram, Yoga, Yagya, Gyan, Sankhya, the four Purusarthas. Why is he again inquiring about these if he was satiated? About those topics.
Seeing everything in relation to the Lord, that changes it. It changes it. It's not like a mundane discussion anymore. You see everything in relation to the Lord, which everything is in relation to the Lord. And as we discuss that more and more, that everything's in relation to the Lord, what does that do? It helps us remember Krishna in his magnitude and his intimacy as well. Oof. Oh, this is wonderful. It's so wonderful. Go on, Prema.
And the last section, 39 through 42, Vidura declares his confidence in Maitreya. 39, without Guru, one can't have knowledge of devotional service. 40, purpose of my inquiries is to hear pastimes of Hari. And 41 and 42, your answers will provide immunity from all miseries, which is the greatest charity.
Wow. There's the answers
Explain
right
that.
there. Go on.
Premananda, let's hear your answer for that one.
Which one?
Last
Yeah.
three.
Well,
I'm not
this
going to
last-
create any
this
more.
last
I'm
one
not going to
especially.
create any more charts in the future. I'm always putting a stop.
No, this is wonderful. It looks like we did a
This
Fresno.
right here.
Yes.
41 and
So
40.
yeah. So I think in this section, what Vidura is saying is that there's so much of knowledge to be attained because he asked so many questions, and he's saying that without really the mercy of the spiritual master, we cannot really understand all these topics, right? Just by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are today discussing all this, and then having a little bit of understanding, even though not complete understanding. And that's why Vidura is saying that the greatest welfare activity is to inquire about these topics, hear about them, and gradually we will have a better understanding of our material situation. And by this understanding, we will engage in Hari Katha and Kirtan, and then gradually get immunity from all such material miseries.
Wonderful. I
Ah,
just heard
wonderful.
Prabhupada talk about this. He was saying, he gave the story. You might have heard this story before, that Bhakti Siddhanta met this man, this gentleman, and he said he was showing him the different literatures that were being printed at that time by the Gaudiya Math, when Bhakti Siddhanta was still present. And he said that we have something like 7 newspapers that come out weekly, and one, what was the Gaudiya Prakash something that we print every day. And then he said, how can you print so much material about this subject matter? And Bhaktisiddhanta came back with a statement: every day you can print so many newspapers glorifying the Lord. So we're all talking here, and people in other places are talking. So much talk, so much talk, Prajalpa, so much talk about politics and everything else that's going on in the world. I mean, we could just be turn around and then just involve ourselves in that. But this is an infinite amount of things that we can talk about in relation to Krishna. And that's very wonderful. That's very wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Prema. Okay. Kate, my darling, would you like to read this, Kate?
Yes, thank you. Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:7-23 through 27. O great Brahmana, you have told me that the gigantic Virat form and his senses, sense objects, and 10 kinds of life air exist with 3 kinds of life bigger. Now, if you will, kindly explain to me the different powers of the specific divisions. O my Lord, I think that the process manifest in forms of sons, grandsons, and family members has spread all over the universe in different varieties and species. O learned Brahmana, please describe how the leader of all demigods, namely the Prajapati, Brahma, decided to establish the various Manus, the heads of the ages. Please describe the Manus also, and please describe the descendants of those Manus. O son of Mitra, kindly describe how the planets are situated above the earth as well as underneath it, and also please mention their measurement as well as that of the earthly planets. Also, please describe the living beings under different classifications: subhumans, humans, those born of the embryo, those born of perspiration, those who are twice born, and the plants and vegetables. Kindly describe their generations and subdivisions also. 3:7, 40 through 41. My dear sage, I have put all these questions before you with a view to knowing the pastimes of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the friend of all, so kindly describe them for all those who have lost their vision. O spotless one, your answers to all these questions will grant immunity from all material miseries. Such charity is greater than all Vedic charities, sacrifices, penances, etc.
Okay, let's keep the screen up here for a moment. So, Kate, first tell me how you can describe this bit.
Well, again, he's asking these questions, which he seemed like he was satisfied before, but now he wants to know these things in relationship to Krishna. And we can talk about Krishna endlessly, and this is the answer to our material miseries.
Yeah, very good. But could you put it back, Patsy, for 1 second? This one, O son of Mitra. Read that one. Read that.
O son of Mitra, kindly describe how the planets are situated above the earth as well as underneath it. And also please mention their measurement as well as the earthly planets.
Okay, what's the necessity of that? What is that? What do you think that could be?
Other than how Krishna is all knowing and he can know and understand these things, and we have no idea, or it's like you said, like, why is this useful to us other than to know Krishna and his godhood and his godness, right? He knows these things.
So the size of this for me, this was significant because the size of the earth and the universe and the whole thing, there's Nanda. I'm going to let Nanda answer this one. Nandaji.
Well, actually, though, that whole thing of where did we come from? Why am I here? That's basic humanity. Everybody has that question in one form or other, some degree or other. In other words, where did we come from? What's our purpose being here? So Srimad Bhagavatam gives us more than the answer to that, more than we expect. The people are different, have different levels of capacity to understand it. Someone on my level, I'm just happy to know very basic little things, because that's all I have the capacity to understand. But other people have bigger capacities. And in fact, that's the whole thrust of material scientists. Where did we come from? Taking God out of the picture, they're trying to analyze, we started with the Big Bang, this and that, so many things. So that's, it's filling a basic question of human need, where do we come from?
Good. I was thinking a little bit different, but that certainly is there. That's very basic humanity, as you said. When you think of the size of the universe and the earth, it just puts us in the right perspective somehow or another. Yeah, very, very little. When we went to the ocean, the thing that I was so enthralled about is I realized my insignificant, teeny weeny size. I don't want to say insignificant because Krishna doesn't create anything that's completely insignificant, but so to speak, insignificant, teeny weeny in relation to everything. And we get these things, and we're thinking that our teeny weeny body and we have this teeny brain, and we're going to create these enormous problems. So everything is go in the right perspective when you start to think of the size of the earth and the size of the universe, which is just one universe amongst infinite amount of universes. So things get pretty big out there. And it's nice to have a nice perspective, the reality of how really small we are. Yes, another thing?
Well, you can finish your sentence, that's for sure. Finish.
Oh, that's basically the point, that it's really nice to have the perspective of our small little things that we think are so important and that we're linked up with in this world, they're not that significant. But if we link up with the Supreme, then we have some answers.
Yeah. Okay. So, and along that same line, and that's the whole reason that the Bhagavatam says, by hearing from the Bhagavatam and hearing about the Lord, it relieves one of the tapatraya, the three miseries of material existence. Now, a person could look at that and say, yeah, but you still grow old, you still have problems with your mind, you still have this, you still have heat and cold problems. But when we have, yes, that's true, we do have them, but when we realize, after having heard the Bhagavatam and these descriptions of the universe and et cetera, and our relationship with Krishna, just like you were saying, when you look at the ocean, you realize you're insignificant. We realize that these problems that we have that are so significant are actually insignificant, and therefore they don't affect one as severely as somebody who doesn't have this knowledge.
Good, perfect.
We link with the Supreme.
Right, perfect. That should make all of us feel very happy, really, really. It's very wonderful. Thank you, Nandaji.
Sama, just for your
Yeah.
information,
Oh, it's getting late.
we're on slide 9. We've been an hour and there are 20 slides. So
Okay, we're gonna go real quick now, folks.
we don't need to go real quick, but
Okay,
let's pick it up.
we're gonna go a little bit, not so quick, but quicker. Okay, I want to have Vaishnavi read, but I think I'm gonna let her read the next one because this is still in the charts, and I think that I'll tell you who's gonna read next. Sham, you want to do this one again for us?
Okay, Canto 3, Chapter 8, Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So 1 through 9, just
I can't hear you.
You cut out.
manifestation of
You're
Srimad
cutting-
Bhagavatam.
Okay.
1. Maitreya acknowledged the devoted Dantam. How about now? Is that working?
Yeah, now it's working. It wasn't just a second ago.
Okay, start again with
Can you hear
Maitreya.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh.
No, your connection's out. You're not even moving on the picture. It seems like you've lost your.
Oh,
you
there
are.
he goes.
Okay, now it should be working, right?
You know,
You
sometimes
have
if you just
And the
take
devoted.
off the picture
Okay.
and then just use the sound, and that might help. Sometimes that helps. If you just, yeah,
Okay, let's
Yeah.
try.
try that.
Maitreya acknowledged Vidura.
Nothing.
No, something's wrong.
No, something's
Tam
wrong,
and the
sweetie.
devoted
Go to Vaishnavi.
dynasty of Kuru. 2. Bhagavatam benefits suffering.
No, we're not hearing you properly,
not hearing you.
Govinda. So we're gonna go to another reader while you work on that.
Okay, yeah. Is that all right, Sham?
So
Okay. Yeah, Vaishnavi.
manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So 1 through 9, the cyclic succession of Srimad Bhagavatam. Within that, number 1 is Maitreya acknowledged Vidura. You have come in the devoted dynasty of Kuru. Second is answer to 3.5.2, Bhagavatam benefits suffering people. And 3 through 9 is Parampara in Bhagavatam. Coming back, 10 through 14, the reawakening of creation. 10 through 12 is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu lay down for 1,000 yuga cycles in the water of dissolution containing the jivas within him. 13 and 14, with the Lord's glance, the subtle subject matter of creation sprouted from the Lord's navel in the form of a lotus bud. And coming through 15 through 23, Brahma's birth and his search for the absolute truth. 15 through 16 describes Brahma took birth in the lotus. Brahma took birth on the lotus and examined 4 directions and got 4 heads. 17 through 21, being unsuccessful in searching for the source of the lotus, he returned to its top. 22 and 23, Brahma meditated on the Lord and finally saw Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. With 24 to 33 is beautiful darshan of Lord Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. 24 is Coral Mountain. 25 is grandeur of Lord's body. 26, merciful display of lotus feet. 27, acknowledges his devotees' service with a smile. 28, transcendental adornment. 29, sandalwood tree. 30, great mountain. 31 through 33, Brahma identified the Lord, saw the ingredients of creation, and began his prayers.
Okay. Boy, that's a real summary of that. Patti, you have any questions to ask on that, or should we go to the next slide?
I would just like to see, because Vaishnavi was with us during those studies, anything coming back to you that you can remember? Or anything jump out at you while you were reading it?
And nothing other than it is a summary description of, that chapter is what I see. Nothing jumps out.
I think I remember that we were all appreciating how after Brahma's intense tapasya, the Lord benedicted him with the vision of himself.
Mm.
Remember? There's that one painting where Brahma's looking down and he's seeing this huge form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So that's that's his vision after, and then he was like a coral mountain, the beautiful features of the Lord. He actually saw the Lord manifested before him or within his heart.
Is this next slide going to be talking about how due to his penance and austerity, he was able to breathe in the wind and the water? Because I was thinking that there is Brahma on the lotus flower, and he's feeling this enormous wind. And the first thing that I thought of was that the breathing of Mahavishnu. That could sound pretty loud to a little lotus flower, like a big storm, because Mahavishnu is breathing. What do you think? Is that speculation?
Sounds like it.
Okay.
Hard to say.
I mean, can you imagine Brahma on the lotus flower, and then he sees that he can't, and then he hears the storm, and that he's a little small. Anyway, it made sense to me. Hare Krishna. All right, let's go on. Thank you, Vaishnavi. That was wonderful to hear from you. Tisha.
One of the points in that chapter was the Bhagavatam's parampara. And because we can't understand these things on ourselves, that's why I chose this part of that chapter.
No, we can't understand things that, but we're lucky to the spiritual master. Wasn't that in another one of these little
Someone
charts?
does know, and this will tell it.
Yeah, okay. Tisha.
Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:8, 3-9. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudev, the supreme, from Lord Shankarshan, who was seated at the bottom of the universe. At that time, Lord Shankarshan was meditating upon his supreme Lord, whom the learned esteemed as Lord Vasudev, but for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak. The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region through the water of the Ganges, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the Serpent King when they desire good husbands. The 4 Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumar, who all knew the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic accents with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Shankarshan, with his thousands of raised hoods, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stones on his head. Lord Shankarshan thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who has already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar also, in his turn, when inquired of by Sankyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarshan. The great sage Sankyayana was the chief amongst the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master, Parashara, and Braspati both heard him. The great sage Parashara, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke unto me the foremost of the Puranas, which is the Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower.
That Patty, before we ask Tisha what she thinks about this, this was really striking to you that they had their hair wet when they came back.
I don't know about striking. It was interesting that they had traveled through the Ganges, which travels throughout the whole universe. And therefore, when they came before me, it's just an interesting description.
Okay. Tisha, what do you think about this? Can you say something that struck you? Do you want to keep it back on the verses so that she could refer to it?
Well, there's a string of just the parampara, how the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken and passed down. And so you know it's coming from the parampara system.
Good. Perfect. Parampara. This is how we're advised to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, we're going to move along. And Nandaji, would you like to do this chart for us? Nandaji?
Yeah, it's Brahma's prayers for creative energy. This is chapter 9. 1 to 25 is Brahma's prayers for creative impetus. Okay, where do I start? 1 to 5, yeah, the Lord's supreme form. 6 to 10 talk about predicament of the conditions. Oh, thank you. Sorry. So 1 to 5. So 1 is the supreme knowable object. 2, verse 2 is about the origin of all forms. Verse 3 is the supreme personal form. Verse 4 talks about the most auspicious form. And 5 talks about the dweller, that the Lord is a dweller in the devotees' hearts. Then verses 6 through 10 talk about the predicament of the conditioned souls. 6 explaining about misidentification causes anxiety. 7, unfortunate people don't hear. 8, miserable jivas are pitiable. 9, bodily identification binds. And 9 also talks about frustration of, maybe that's supposed to be 10, but it's okay. Yeah, 10 probably. Frustration of non-devotees. Okay, so then the next group is 11 through 13 of the Lord's reciprocation with various devotees. Then in 11, pure devotees, the Lord dwells in their hearts. The Lord dwells in their hearts who see him through the ears. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I forget that. Hritkarnasar. Yeah. Okay. 12 is the demigods not satisfied, non-devotees. The demigods not satisfied. Non-devotees is unavailable. The Lord's unavailable to non-devotees. And 13 speaks that people who offer their results to him will become gradually pure. So in continuing on, verse 14 through 19 talks about obeisances unto, for Brahman and Bhagavan. 14, Brahman and Bhagavan. 15, the merciful holy names. 16, the cosmic tree. 17 and 18, the time factor. 19, various transcendental forms. 20, 21, Garbhodakshai, Vishnu's yoga nidra, his mystic sleep.
obeisances unto all of that.
Yeah.
Well,
22 verses 22 to 25 talks about requisites. 22, it talks about empower me. Lord Brahma is praying, empower me to create.
It's
20.
requests.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that. Request. Yes. Okay. So Lord Brahma is requesting empowerment to create in verse 22. He's requesting protection from false ego. He's in 24, he's requesting protection or requesting help from save me from deviation. And 25, please wake up. Oh, yes, wake up. The Lord's still asleep, and please wake up. Wow, that's a really full chapter description, that's for sure.
not even over.
That's
Isn't
only
it?
half.
That's only half. Are you ready? You did great. You want someone else to read, Nanda?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot.
There, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gopa, you want to try it? Can you, I don't know if you can read this probably on the phone.
Yeah, it's very hard to read on
Okay,
the
so
phone.
okay, you know what? Premananda will do it and then you do the next one.
All right.
Premanandaji?
Okay, 29 through 43, the Supreme Lord's reply to Brahma. 29 to 33, follow penance and devotion to see everything in relation to me. So this is the Supreme Lord's reply to Brahma. 29, do not be anxious. 30, attain mercy by penance and perseverance. 31 and 32, transcendental vision of an absorbed devotee. And 33 is stage of attaining the Lord. 34 through 40, the Lord's mercy and benedictions offered. 34, the mercy on you will increase. My mercy on you will increase. 35, Rajaguna will not bind you. 36, you understood me since you know my form is transcendental. 37, I am manifested within you when you are searching. 38, by my costless mercy you have offered prayers. 39, I am pleased by your prayers. And 40, all desires will be fulfilled for one who prays like this. In the last section, 41 through 43, I am the dearmost of all, and I am the one to be satisfied. 41, the ultimate goal is to invoke my satisfaction. 42, I am the ultimate dearest object. And 43, follow my instructions.
This is wonderful. What do you got to say about this, Premananda? The Lord's answer to Brahma's.
I am what to say? Prabhu, could you please go back to that chart? Yeah. I'm very, what to say, inspired by that section where the Lord says, you were able to pray to me by my costless mercy. I am pleased by your prayers, and all your desires will be fulfilled for one who prays like this. So I think in our bhakti, I think praying is a very important element, because sometimes we say all these prayers, we don't get into the meeting, we just say for the sake of saying the prayers, like the Mahaprastham prayers. So we just quickly go through it without really getting into the mood. So this was the praying to the Lord in a very humble and with lots of emotion. It's very that satisfies the Lord, because he says that that I'm the one to be satisfied, so we can also satisfy the Lord with very sincere prayers to the Lord. I think that's something that stood out for me.
It's wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to this next slide, and maybe Gopa can read it. That was beautiful. This is another description of it right here. But Gopa, you want to try reading this?
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam. The Zoom always goes down. Hang on.
Gotta get you another machine.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:10, 4 through 8. The greatly learned sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, Brahma thus engaged himself in penances for 100 celestial years, as advised by the personality of Godhead. and applied himself in devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, Brahma saw that both the lotus of which he was situated and the water on which the lotus was growing were trembling due to a strong, violent wind. Long penance and transcendental knowledge of self-realization had matured Brahma in practical knowledge, and thus he drank the wind completely along with the water. Thereafter he saw that the lotus on which he was situated was spread throughout the universe, and he contemplated how to create all the planets which were previously merged in that same lotus. Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the whirl of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds and later into 14 divisions.
Actually, I made a mistake, Sama. I kind of got there's so because there's so many slides. Because there's so many slides, I got mixed up. Read this one.
Did.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one because that was the prayers. Okay.
Which is this one.
Okay, Gopa.
That next one's called Divisions of Creation.
Okay. Okay, this was a lot to do. So, Gopaji, would you like to read this one also?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay, because this was the one that this is beautiful. Go on, read this. In response to what Premananda read.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:9-30. O Brahma, situate yourself in penance and meditation and follow the principles of knowledge to receive my favor. By these actions, you will be able to understand everything from within your heart. O Brahma, when you are absorbed in devotional service in the course of your creative activities, you will see me in you and throughout the universe. And you will see that you yourself, the universe, and the living entities are all in me. You will see me in all living entities as well as all over the universe, just as fire is situated in wood. Only in that state of transcendental vision will you be able to be free from all kinds of illusion. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. Since you have desired to increase the population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived in this matter, because my causeless mercy upon you will always increase for all time.
Whoa, what kind of benediction is that? When I read that, it's just, go, but tell me something about these last 2 verses. I was sending this verse to a lot of people when you were free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association.
Well, it's pretty amazing. I think Prabhupada's trying to let us realize that some kind of penance has to be done, some kind of austerity. I heard a class the other day, Prabhupada was saying that you just can't realize you have to perform austerities, and then Krishna will reveal to you in your heart. But here he's saying that he's going to bless him forever. So
that made me cry. Who wouldn't want
you
that
cry
one?
because you've given up all these other things.
No, I'm crying because he didn't tell me that. When's he going to say that to me, that I'll have his mercy for all time? Put that back for a second, Putty. This is what we want from the Lord. This, of course, we want, and it's only through penance, austerities, devotional service. Read the last text.
When you are free from
No,
the con-
since you have desired to increase. Last one.
Okay, it's I'm not okay, there it is. Since you have desired to increase the population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived in this matter, because my causeless mercy upon you will always increase for all time.
Oh my God. What a benediction. Not only that the mercy of the Lord will increase for all time, but the desire of Brahma to expand your varieties of service. Krishna will benedict. How this is awesome for me. This is awesome. This is the perfection. And Brahma, he's the head of our sampradaya. So this is to what we were supposed to aspire. So wonderful.
So isn't it true that this person personally got the benediction of the Lord? He saw him, he exchanged words with him, and was instructed directly in his heart how to continue his service. And Brahma, we'll read later, instructed his son Narada in the same way. Narada instructed Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva instructed his son, and we're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which is those same teachings. So the point is, if we follow them, then we do have that benediction inherent in itself.
Yeah, but as Vilopa said, also penance and austerity must be there.
Yes, that's also included in the instruction.
Right. You can't expect, someone mentioned, you can't just expect that it's just going to happen. Just like puff. It will happen, but reciprocal. It's reciprocal. Krishna sees the endeavor and rewards accordingly.
I think what we're going to do for the final is just go through the charts, not the reviews.
Okay. Wait, that was Gopatnik Premananda. You want to read?
Yes. Chapter 10, Divisions of the Creation. 1, 2, 3, Vidura inquires about Brahma's creation.
So this means what Brahma did after he was benedicted, right?
Right. And how did Brahma create from his body and mind? 4 through 9, Lord Brahma creates the 14 worlds. Brahma meditated on the Lord for 100 years, entered the hole of the lotus and divided it into 3 divisions and then into 14 divisions. And then 10 through 13 describes the characteristics of time. And I've listed all the characteristics in this. They are: time is the source of the interactions of the modes. Time lacks attributes and hence is imperceptible. It is limitless without beginning or end. It acts as an instrumental cause. It separates material energy from the Lord. Time divides universes into various planetary systems. Time is unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord. It is also objective manifestation or representative of the Lord. And finally, time causes the universe to appear alike in the present as it was in the past and shall be in the future. 14 through 30, 10 divisions of creation. First division are the 3 types of destructions, which are eternal time, material elements, and qualities of one's work, which is karma. 15 to 17, 6 types of primary creation: Mahatattva, false ego, sense objects, senses, which are 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 action senses, demigods and mind and ignorance. So these are the 6 types of primary creation. And then 18 to 29 describes the 4 types of secondary creation: immovable species, which are the plants, lower species animals, human beings, and demigods. So these are the divisions of the creation.
Okay. Thank you. Okay,
Shall I continue?
Let's see if Kate would like to. Oh, is this the same
It's a different chapter now.
All right, yeah, continue for this one, then Kate will do the next
Okay,
one. End with it.
chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. So this is, I couldn't come up with another section because it's pretty technical and I couldn't create another layer of, so just kept it simple in this chapter.
Okay.
1 to 4, time also has small and big divisions like matter, and 5 to 15 divisions of time, which was basically those anu and paramanu and those.
Is
So
that
it's a
like,
whole,
is
it's a
that
whole
like,
list.
is that like seconds, minutes,
Yes, yes.
hours, days,
Second, minutes, hours,
etc.?
days. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then 16 to 17, Vidura inquires about those who are beyond to one kalpa. And 18 to 22 talks about the duration of the yogas, which is basically the 4 yogas, Kali Yoga, Dwapara, Treta, Sakya, and how long they are. 23 to 27 talks about the duration of manus, and 28 to 32 talks about the destruction at the end of a kalpa, and 33 to 37 talks about Brahma's lifespan, and there's one more section, Prabhu, and the last section is insignificance of Brahma's lifespan and the universe as compared to the Lord's eternity.
So that isn't all that we have been discussing. This awesomeness is insignificant. I mean, so really, no one from this class on, no one should be in anxiety about anything. That's one of the things that Krishna told Brahma: don't be in anxiety. So we have no reasons to be in anxiety. If we're paying attention to this material world so much, then we'll be in anxiety. We just have to let it do its thing. We're not from this place. This is all to help us understand that we are not these bodies and we're not from here. What's going on here is like it's not logical. It has nothing to do with us, really, the soul. Get out of that confusion.
It is very prison-like too. It's very regimented and very controlled.
It's a prison.
There's one more chart here that
Okay,
Premananda didn't do. No, that shows the same thing in another format. We can see how it's all. This is basically a chart of that chapter in a little bit different way.
Okay, you want to review it, or do you think we
No,
should just
it's all right. I just wanted to show it how this is what it was. Pretty much what he just read.
This time.
Yes.
Time. And
So
remember,
as Maitreya is describing the creation, he's got into the elements, the controlling demigods, the planets, the universes, the people, and also this feature of the Lord. Time is a feature of the Lord's control over everything.
right, and the insignificance of Brahma's lifetime. Holy cow! Really? Okay. Nobody can complain about anything anymore. Okay, now we're on the last slide. Kate, would you like to finish this up? Are we going to read the slide after this, Patti?
Sure.
Okay, so Kate, why don't you start? Why don't you do this?
Hare Krishna, 3:12, creation of the Kumaras and others. 1 through 3, 5 types of ignorance. 1 through 2, 5 features of ignorance. 3, Brahma was displeased. 4 through 6, 4 Kumaras from Vidya. 4 through 5, Brahma asked them to create progeny and they refused. 6, Brahma was disrespected. 7 through 20, Rudra born from Brahma's anger. 7 through 10, Rudra born from Brahma's anger. 11 through 14, Rudra's 11 names, residences, and wives. 15 through 16, Rudra's progeny started devouring everything. Brahma was disturbed. 17 through 20, Brahma told Rudra to stop creation and do penance. 21 through 27, various manifestations from Brahma's body and mind. 21 through 27, 10 sons headed by Matrisi and Kardama. 25 through 26, Dharma adharma, and factors that instigate adharma. 28 through 33, Vak episode. 28. Brahma was distracted by being inclined toward his daughter Vak. 29 through 32. Brahma's sons tried to dissuade him but failed, so they prayed to the Supreme Lord. 33. Brahma, ashamed, gave up that mentality. 39 through 49. Further creation. 39 through 49. 4 Vedas, Upaveda, Panchama Veda, Karma, Tantram, 4 legs of Dharma, Ashrama, arts, Vedic meters, and alphabets. 50 through 57, Svayambhavu Manu and Satarupa. Brahma saw deficiency in the creation by the sages. 53 through 55, from his body, Svayambhuva Manu and Satarupa appeared. 56 through 57, Manu and his wife continued the creation.
Okay.
That was a pretty big list. That was pretty big creation. Creations by Brahma, creation of Kumaras and others, yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we have certainly studied a real lot in this canto, and I really have to hand it to each one of you for sticking with this. And this is, you know, when you stick with this spiritual sojourn, and Krishna sees it. He sees all the distraction that's coming along, and he sees that you're determined. He's very pleased, and that's all we want to do is please Krishna, really. Okay, so we have one more slide, and Kate, would you like to read it, sweetie? Oh, not Kate. I meant
Bhagavatam.
Wait a minute, Kate. Okay, you can read it. I was going to ask Tisha, but that's okay.
Okay, Tisha can read.
Okay, I'm sorry. Unless you're attached, she doesn't really. Okay, you read it. Tisha, next time you'll read. Kate.
Tisha can read some. Kate
okay, Tisha can read.
Some is tired.
I'm tired. We've been doing. I'm allowed to be because I'm old, and the body gets tired. Okay, Tisha. Thank you, Kate, my darling, and thank you everyone for participating.
Okay, 3:12, 2 through 7. Brahma first created the nescient engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. In the beginning, Brahma created 4 great sages named Sanak, Sanand, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upwards. So Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. "My dear sons," he said, "now generate progeny." But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness. On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma, which he tried to control and not express. Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out from between his eyebrows, and a child, mixed blue and red, was immediately generated.
Here he is, Guruji. Ah. Wow. Okay, well, there we go.
Yeah, we covered a lot today. But basically, yeah, this is a 3rd canto review. One of the reasons I wanted to go over this was because oftentimes when we're reading so scrutinizingly, we lose the bigger picture. But by going back and reviewing the whole thing as a unit, we see the literary development of Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Pariksit, then him referring to Brahma being spoken to directly by the Supreme Lord. And then when Brahma explained it to Narada, that's when the Bhagavatam is the answer, is chapter 10, the last chapter of the 2nd canto. And now Vidura and Maitreya are again speaking the same topics, all about the creation, who created it, how it was created, why it's created, the different features of living within it, while it's created. And all these things are what Srimad Bhagavatam is there for, as the literary incarnation of God.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, thank you
So-
again. Anybody have any question or anything to add before we end? If not, then we will see everyone, I hope, again next week. But it seems like we're winding down with this wonderful study. And again, I got to hand it to everybody who partook in this. Your steadiness is noted, definitely noted by Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, who worked so hard to give us this knowledge.
One
Thank
quick
you.
question. One
What-
quick question.
Yes.
Prabhu, did you already create the lessons for fourth canto?
I've done several of them. Yes, what happens?
No.
What,
Yeah.
have I already what?
No, I was thinking, I mean, do you think having this kind of charts would really help? Because now that we have a break, I think I can work on them.
Oh, I see.
Do you think that
Certainly.
would help, or
They're definitely
continue?
helpful.
Okay.
No doubt about it. You saw how it makes such big topics concise. So
Okay.
yes, I'm finding them very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
What for
You,
everybody's
you two
information?
can talk separate, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh.
but for everybody's information, what happens is that we're reading about Swayambhuva Manu. Kate just read about his manifestation from Brahma's body. And from there on, it will discuss Brahma's progeny, his children. And and of course, first we'll read next week about Lord Varaha. And then the next week, Lord Kapiladev. And then that's the end of Devahuti, who was the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. The fourth canto begins with the other children of Swayambhuva Manu. So it continues that family line. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Patitam Bhavneya Vaishnaveya Namo Namaha.
Premyo Namo Namaha, Jai Shri
Lord
Prabhupada.
Premanandi.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.